welcome to Wave Clinical Support. I see from your case you have a challenging patient with quite a bit of corneal cylinder and refractive cylinder, and you're struggling with some cylinder over-refraction. I'm a little confused from your clinical request. You do mention a scleral lens that seems to be pretty stable. The designs that you sent appear to be a little bit smaller, so I suspect that these may be a non-scleral lens. So we'll talk about both for just a moment. If we're talking about these 10-7 diameter lenses, as you know, this patient has about 3 diopters or so of corneal cylinder and about 5 refractive. So most likely we're going to end up with a lens that is sort of a bitoric lens. And I suspect what's happening is you're getting a pretty nice fit here on this particular lens. And you have a cylinder over refraction of -3. And when you go to add that in, I noticed that from your design, when you added it in, you had the prism checked box. And what the prism checkbox, if you recall, does, it adds prism ballasting on the front of the lens. So I suspect what's probably happening is with that extra prism ballast, you're probably getting some rotation causing some weird cylinder over refractions. With that much corneal cylinder to start, as you know, you'd expect the back of this lens to hug very nicely and fit just like a saddle, so you'd expect very little rotation. But since you have a little bit more slightly oblique here, I wouldn't be surprised that once you get that lens sitting nicely on there, you put the cylinder over refraction, the prism causes lens to rotate a little bit off center, give you kind of a funny result. You might try, if you are using this design, try taking the prism out of there and see if that'll help stabilize this at all. If we talk for a moment about a scleral design, from your clinical request to mention that you have pretty good stability with a scleral lens. If you are using a full scleral design in the 15 to 16 millimeter range, make sure you don't have too much corneal clearance, as sometimes that will leave you with less than desirable visual effect. I tend to be a little bit more successful with more of a semi-scleral design, which is really a corneal touch design, which is actually, riding on the cornea but resting most of the bearing right here on the outside the limbus at about 14 millimeters or so, as opposed to full scleral lens, which tends to vault that cornea, as you know. So hopefully you'll find that helpful. But again, I'd go back. If you're still struggling with that, maybe go back and double check your pre-refractive, your spectacle refraction. I find sometimes that there's a little variation in those measurements too, and sometimes the data kind of throws you off. But this is a challenging case. I've run into a few of these on my own. They're very difficult. It's a little hit and miss with these things, but if you can get that prism out of there, that may help get a little more consistency without this thing rotating so much. And sometimes after you add the initial over refraction here, make sure if you're going to add any other over refractions and use them more to use for the to give you the compounding cylinders on there. Anyways, I hope that's helpful. I wish you well with this difficult case, and thank you for contacting clinical support. Have a great day.